Welcome to the second session of teleconference for PGDMC's program. In our previous session, we discussed about principles of management, in which we discussed not only the principles, the difference between administration and management, the skills that a manager should have, and basic concepts and theories in management. In this session, we will discuss about the resource management, in which we will take up some other issues also like motivation, leadership, and also we will take up material management, human resource, and if time permits, we will take up budget and some other aspects. As I have already announced in the previous session, in our next month there will be no teleconference. That in the month of September there will be no teleconference for PGDMC's program, but we will have our teleconference in the month of October, November. Because your session is now extended for 6 months, that is the 2008 batch, those who have taken admission in the month of January 2008 will continue till June 2009, and their final exam will be in June 2009. So the students who have not done some of the activity, they can contact me. They must have already received my letter. So if you have any problem, you can contact me, so that the spells that you have not attended till now, we can manage to have those sessions at different places, so that you will be able to make up your loss that you have done till now. One more thing regarding the assignment, there are some query from the students. You have 9 assignments, and we had already instructed that the assignment 1, assignment 4, and assignment 7, these were supposed to be submitted by July as mentioned in the program guide. But because of the delay in the material, now you can submit all of those assignments by October end. The pediatric books that you have not received, we will send it in another fortnight, so that we expect you to receive the 4 pediatric booklets or blocks by September 15, or maybe by last week of September you should definitely get it, so that you are in a situation to submit all your assignment by October end. Now, to come to the topic regarding resource management, we have both the experts as previous session. To my left, Dr. K. Anand, and to his left, Dr. A. K. Sood. I will request now Dr. Sood to tell something on motivation, and then we can go for other topics. Dr. Sood, please.
Thank you, Professor Jena. And in this particular session, we are going to discuss various resources which you have. And of course, human resource we have seen is very crucial resource. And one of the main challenge for you as a manager or a head of department is how to get the things done from other, how to motivate the other. This is very, very important area. And I will like to sort of discuss in a brief time which we have, what are the basic things in motivation which we should keep in mind. In fact, this is, as I said, is the main challenge for us, how to get the potential, full potential of our subordinates. So that means we must know how to motivate each and every one of us, of our subordinates. Now for that, let's try to understand which power, which activity controls our, which mental activity control our actions. Because all of us, whether we are performing a job in the office or whatever behavior we are showing, ultimately there is some basic things in our mind which forces us to take a particular type of behavior. So let's try to understand what are these motives. These are known as the motives. Motive basically are those forces in our mind which force us to behave in a particular way. So motivation basically is the inner desire to act, and all of us are governed by some of these basic motives which are there on the screen right now. And all our action, whether it is related to our official work or maybe our personal work or home, whatever behavior which we show in any place, are governed more or less by these different types of motives. And here again, the important point to understand is that each of these motives may act differently. Say at one time achievement motive may be very important for our particular act, another time it could be the influence motive or control motive. So that again, so if in one particular situation achievement motive has been a prominent motive, in another situation it may be a different motive. So let's now try to understand what are these. As I said, motivation basically is the inner desire to act, and all of us are concerned, are governed by some basic motives or primary motives which are there. First, let's see what is the achievement motive. As a professional, we want to excel in our profession, whichever profession you are. Say you may be a good surgeon. So all those tasks, all those activity which help you in proving that you are the best surgeon, that will motivate you, and that at that point in time your primary motivate is the achievement motive. Many a time we see that the neurosurgeon, for example, they work at a stretch for 8 hours and 10 hours. Even during that period, they may not take a cup of tea or they may not take a food. But at the end of that 8-hour long tiring surgery, if the outcome is very satisfactory, and that gives a sense of satisfaction to you. So this is an example of an achievement motive. So many of our actions are governed by this motive, especially as a professional, when we want to prove that we are better than our colleagues or we are better than someone else. So we want to, this is again a sense of satisfaction you get. So many of our action in many of the situations are governed by this achievement motive, especially when we are talking about the professional activities. Second type of motive, primary motive, is the affiliation motive. So many a time, say when you are dealing with the people, and if you learn that the other doctor is also a graduate from the same college from where you have done your MBBS or post graduation, so that immediately your behavior changes. You have a sense of affiliation. Okay, this person also belongs to the same college, or this person is also from the same state, or he belongs to the same area where I belong. So that makes a big difference. So some of our actions are governed in some of the situation by this type of motive, which is known as the affiliation motive. That we tend to take those activities which promote this thing in us. Third is the influence motive. Some of us, sometimes we feel that if we are occupying a very important position in the organization, so that we are able to influence others. So that again act as those type of activities will sort of stimulate you for action. That will motivate. If your senior gives you a task which gives you a chance to prove that you are able to influence others, that act as a motive itself. So this is known as the influence motive. That is that position in the organization where you are able to influence many people or several people, and that gives a sense of sort of satisfaction that I am so much important in the organization that I am able to influence. Then sometime it is a control motive which becomes very, very important, especially when you are interacting with your subordinate, for example. So if you think that in a particular position, say for example head of department, why people want to become head of department? Many a times in their back of their mind they may have a feeling, okay, when I become head of department I will have 10 people under me or 20 people under me whom I will be able to control. So that could be is again a motive in certain situations. Another type of motive is the extension motive. Extension motive is that you are relate the activity to a group, for example, the people with the same caste. Oh, this person also is from my caste, or this person is also from the same village where I work, I belong. So that's again extension motive. This is known as extension motive. Those situations where you feel that this is a stimulating factor for you. And another type of last primary motive is the dependency motive. When you feel that the other person is fully dependent upon you, then you tend to perform this activity. The classical example is your own children, for example. Or when mother feels that the infant is dependent upon her, so naturally she will perform that task because she knows nobody else can perform those activities. Similarly, we have a commitment to our families, our children, maybe our parents. So that sort of motive which stimulate us to perform those actions is known as the dependency motive. So the basic purpose is to just understand these simple concepts, that these are the things which motivate us in different situations. And another thing, in different situations the different motives may be a more stronger motive than the other. Now if we are clear about these things, now let's see how we can really motivate our subordinate. That is the main challenge. As we have seen that our subordinate may have personal needs, and sometime if you are able to attend, because in an official setup sometime you may not be able to sort of attend to their personal needs, but sometime there may be situation whereby you feel that if you are able to contribute for their personal needs, the employees will feel obliged, and they may be able to sort of obey your order in a better way. They will be motivated to obey your orders. So this could be in terms, say for example, your subordinate needs a consultation in a particular hospital, and you happen to know someone in that hospital. So if just you can put a word, okay, this person is my employee, please do the needful. So this simple gesture, just a small note on a piece of paper or a visiting card, will make a big difference, because the subordinate will feel that you are also taking care of his or her personal needs. So that way you will be finding that this person next time will perform better, the quality of work may be better, or the output may be better in terms of quantity. Then another, as I said, some of these companies, management companies, they also take care of the family needs of the employees. As you know, most of the companies, they take care of the educational need of the children, or professional, they provide vocational professional training center and key preservation for the employees of the company, or maybe medical treatment facilities. So that again gives a feeling to the person that the organization is caring not only for him as an individual but also for his family, and that also will create a sense of motivation in that. Then of course there are social norms and values which are also very, very important, and these social norms and value also motivate the people to perform. It may happen in a government setup, for example, a new person comes, and sometimes these norms and values may be contradictory to the management concept. Say, we usually expect that when a person performs better in an organization, he should be given credit, but there may be social pressure on him. Say, if a doctor joins a particular organization, and if he examines, say, more OPD cases than the other people, there may be social pressure on him. So these social norms and pressures sometimes also become motivating and demotivating factor. There may be, for example, we have a labor union, for example, we have union of the employees. So sometimes instead of acting in a positive way, sometimes they may have a negative influence also, but more or less they are very, very important as an informal mechanism for creating social norms for the work standards and work number, and also the values which are created in the organization. Another important way to motivate is that when you give a important role to the individual in the organization, many a time, say for example, the personal secretary to the director. So there is another person who is a personal secretary to a head of department. They are maybe in the same scale, but the person who is attached to the director or head of the institution, he gets a more importance than the person who is at the department level or a unit level. So this placement of the person in a particular role which make him feel very important, or he feels that he has more power, more powers, and more people are coming to him for advice. So that will also motivate the people. Then there are certain types of tasks which are also very, very important. Ultimately, it is a task which gives a sense of satisfaction. So it has been seen that if you give optimum variety of the task in the workplace, the people will be motivated. If you have too much variety, again it is detrimental. It will not be able to motivate the person. And if you give too little variety, the person will get bored and he will not like. So there is a term which is known as the optimal variety of tasks, which also, especially for technical people, professional people, if they have more and more challenges in the tasks which they are performing, they will be motivated to work. And another important thing related to the task is optimal duration. Say ultimately, as I give you example of a surgeon, when you get satisfaction at the end of a surgery, 2 hours, 3 hour surgery, if you find a definite outcome or output in term which is satisfactory to you, and professionally you feel satisfied, that is motivating factor. But if the result is not immediately available to you, or then again you will not be feeling motivated to perform that task. So in task, there are two important things which we should understand. Is the task should be varied from time to time, and secondly, the duration of the task should be such that the person is able to see a tenable, a satisfactory outcome of that particular task. And actually, if I am performing a particular task, I must know what has been the end product of that. Whether that end product gives me a sense of satisfaction. Yes, I have done something for this organization, and all my actions have led to some productive outcome. So that will give a sense of satisfaction and motivation. Then there are certain organization-related factors which are also very important, and these are usually reflected in the organization policies and guidelines. And some of these important mechanisms, which is the performance appraisal mechanism. Unfortunately, in the government setup, we have the system of annual confidential reports, and which are sometimes not even told to the employees, so they are not linked with the reward system. So they don't really, such mechanism does not really act as a motivational factor. But in corporate sector, in private sector, you will find that your performance is immediately linked with the reward system. If you perform better, maybe you will get some additional incentive, additional bonus, or sometime maybe additional additional incentive in terms of pay. Where in the government setup, you cannot increase the pay of a worker or employee for even by 1 paisa going out of the way. But in the private sector, they have the performance appraisal system, which is very objective, and which monitors the performance very closely, and it is closely related with the reward system. Unfortunately, in our setup, government setup, this performance and reward systems are not linked, And the rewards which are there, they are not sometimes in terms of monetary reward, so they don't sometimes act as a mechanism for motivation. But this is an important mechanism in the organization, especially in the private sector. Then there is an organization culture which is very, very important. A person may be turned as a useless person in one organization, but when the same person visits another organization, he may perform the wonder. He may perform wonder. There are many examples in our setup that a doctor is labeled as a useless in our country, but when this person visits another hospital abroad, he's the best, considered as one of the best. So that means this is something related to the organization culture, which is very, very important. And this culture also has a very important influence on the performance. And let's see what makes organization culture. There are certain elements, and maybe subsequently we'll discuss. If there is openness in the organization. When we say openness, that means subordinate should feel free. He should not hesitate to tell his viewpoint, to tell his problems, to give his suggestion to the superiors. In the government setup, many a time we have this culture, boss is always right. There is hardly any scope for openness, and as a result, the subordinates who may be having very good suggestions, who may be having very good issues related to the improvement, they don't given proper hearing and they are lost. So when we say that there is a positive work culture in the organization, that means there should be openness. Openness does not mean that they should start fighting, but that there should be at least this feeling among the subordinate that whenever they give a suggestion, a good idea to the senior, they will at least listen and accept that. Second is the trust. Dr. Anand mentioned about the team spirit. Team, especially in the professional activities, we require the building of a team. For that, you require mutual trust. This is also very, very important. Third element is the team building. And as we have seen that I may be a good surgeon, but if the entire team is not good, the performance as a surgeon is affected by that. Third is honoring creativity, because there are challenges in the day-to-day life. So unless you allow new ideas to come up, many a times as a head of department we feel, okay, we have this problem, what was the solution done last 2 years or 3 years back when this problem arose? So maybe 5 years back, that solution was the best at that particular point in time. But today, after 5 years or 10 years, you are implementing the same solution, which may be disastrous now. So that means there should be a scope for creativity. You must encourage newer ideas, implementing new ideas, implementing innovations. So many organizations encourage that. So if the work culture in the organization is that newer ideas and creativity is encouraged, and that productivity will also improve. Then the rules and procedures. See, rules and procedures are created to help the human resource, but many a time we find that the clerk or LDC or UDC will say, he will quote some old rule, and as a result you are not able to give some facility or some sort of which is entitled to that person to. Say if an employee want to have a house loan, for example, house building a loan from the government, it is very difficult. In the government setup, first LDC will say what is your service, whether you are confirmed or not, how much, what is your basic, this is the limit. But you go to the private sector bank, within a week you will get. In the government sector, it may take you sometime a year or 2 years for getting a loan. But in the private sector, there are examples that within 3 days, 2 days, same day also there are examples where you can get that. So that means that the rules and procedures should be flexible to the extent to help the people. If they are too much rigid, if you follow those rules and procedures in a very rigid manner, because ultimately the situations are different. Rules are created, these are very broad, but you are applying those rules and to each situation, which may be totally unique and different. So unless there is some flexibility, that will not give a sense of belongingness. So when we talk about a positive organization culture, that means that the interaction between the superior and subordinate should be open. The superior should have trust in their subordinate. There should be a feeling of team spirit. That should be that even a class 4 should have a sense of satisfaction that he is contributing for the outcome of a surgical procedure. He should have that sense of feeling, only then he will give the best. That means autonomy should be there. Sometimes we have too much tight control, especially in the professional setup when you are guiding as a junior consultant for a surgery. So for every step, if you give instruction, the person will feel that he has not performed the surgery. So functional autonomy is also important, where the people feel that they have performed a particular procedure considering their own skills. But that does not mean that you should not supervise them. You should supervise them from a distance, and if you feel there is going to be a big blunder, then you only intervene. But many a time we give too much instruction. As a result, our subordinate, they don't enjoy the task which they are performing. So when we talk about this motivation and organization culture, I feel this is a single very important factor which will motivate our subordinate if we keep some of these points in mind. Then there are certain simple things which again you can in day-to-day situation you can apply. Give credit to for achievement to your subordinate. This we hardly do. We usually take credit for the success and we blame the subordinate for the failure. It should be actually other way around. You should try to give credit for achievement to your subordinates. You should take responsibility for the failure because you are the head of department. You have given the instruction to the subordinate. Maybe your instructions were not clear. Maybe your plan was not proper. Maybe your anticipation of certain things was not proper. So that will, if you take responsibility for the failure, you will find that your subordinate will respect you and they will also be motivated to perform better. There are certain simple things which will make a big difference, especially in the private sector. You find the employees, they call each other by their name. But in government setup, we still stick to the hierarchy. We always call yes sir, yes sir. But I have seen that in other countries, in private sector, people call each other by their first name, and that way they are more open. So once you call your senior or by first name, it may be difficult in our culture to accept, but that at least the barrier is broken, and people they feel that okay, they can tell the real thing, the problems, and the suggestions can be given. Then informal interaction we have already discussed. Have common tea time, have lunch time together, and have informal get-togethers. Some of the organizations they also announce the best employee of the month, put a photograph on the notice board, and if you can give some reward, possible monetary reward, or maybe sometime rewards could be giving additional challenge to the person. So that again will make a big difference. And if you find there are certain deficiency in a subordinate, explain those deficiency in private. Don't tell the deficiency in front of others because that you will not be able to motivate. So these are some of the simple things which we should keep in mind if we really want to motivate our subordinates.
Yeah, I think Dr. Sood has elaborately dealt the topic motivation. Our main topic for this was actually human resource. Maybe after another 2 minutes, we'll go for human resource itself. Dr. Anand, can you just summarize briefly so that the students will be able to participate?
Thanks, Dr. Jaina. As we already discussed, we always work as a team, and for a team to achieve, the team has to be motivated towards achieving an objective. Motivation is, again, each individual is different and each individual gets motivated by different things. But there are certain basic ways we can classify. Most of us are motivated to achieve our own needs. And depending upon our level of need, there is a hierarchical model of needs which most elementary is the physiological needs, which is food, water and other physiological purposes. This is basic essential. This has to be met for everybody. The second is a physical need, which is of clothes, household, health, etc. And this need is never ending. It can go to any extent. And very often this is the level that we are mostly trying to motivate by giving better salaries or by giving better remunerations or allowances to the people. This is what we are aiming at. But a third level is of psychological needs, which is where we should be aiming for many of the, especially the higher level functionaries. Looking at most important of that is dignity. Dignity of an individual is most important for doing this. Everybody in the team should feel that their dignity has been maintained. The autonomy, which we discussed, Dr. Sood discussed, and the level of achievement. And finally is the fourth level, which is very complicated, is the spiritual needs, which is much more difficult to fulfill. But ultimately all human beings try to achieve these needs, and this is what motivates them to do whatever they are doing. The manager's job is to see that you identify what are the needs of the individual and tailor-make your interventions to motivate an individual. But often one thing one has to do as a manager is that often sometimes the motivation for an individual might be different from the objectives of the institution. There might be a conflict between motivations, between employees or between the staff and the larger organizational objectives. How to manage those conflicts is also an important thing that a manager has to learn. But ultimately motivating is about fulfilling your team members' individual needs, and so that you achieve your goal faster and better.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. I think now we will go straight to human resource. We have only 20 minutes left. So maybe only important issues can be dealt. and then we can have maybe discussion for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Dr. Sood, please.
Thank you, Professor Jaina. Another important point here to discuss is about leadership. I think we'll spend 5-10 minutes on leadership. This is also very, very important. And many a time we are really not really clear what we mean by the leadership. One of the simple way to understand what do we mean and what is the aim of developing good leadership. As we have seen that there are studies which show that if we have good effective leaders, the performance will make a big difference. The studies have also shown that those organizations which are performing well, they had at any point in time previously in the history of the organization good leaders which gave the culture, which gave the work culture to the organization, and as a result the organizations are performing well. So let's try to understand what are the aims of having good leadership. Basically there are two things which we have when we have good leadership in the organization. The first aim of a leader is to develop subordinate, because we'll see subsequently the definition of leadership is to make plan and to get this plan implemented by others. These are the two key elements in one of the definition which is most accepted all over the world about the leadership is. So if we really want to get the things done from other and want to make effective plans, that means you must be able to develop your subordinates by identifying their strengths, by identifying their weaknesses. So one of the aim of good leadership is that they develop subordinates by identifying their deficiency and by giving them adequate training, so develop them. Second is to use a management style. There are different styles of management which will take the best out of your subordinate. So these are the two basic aims of having effective leadership in the organization. One, that you must develop your subordinates competencies by giving them opportunities, by giving them training. We'll see this subsequently. And secondly, yourself, you should follow a management style whereby your subordinates are able to give their best. So these are the two basic things you should keep in mind before we go to the concepts of leadership. In literature you find there are more than 350 definitions of leadership, but the most widely accepted definition surprisingly came from a doctor. That was a British doctor, Lord Moran. He observed during World War I how the British army soldiers were being motivated by their superior, and he gave a definition which is still accepted as the most suitable definition of leadership. So he gave this definition which is here in the slide, that leadership is the capacity to frame plans which will succeed and faculty to persuade others to carry out these plans in all difficulties. So basically you find in this particular definition there are two things. One is the ability to form plans which will work. That is very, very important. That means you require certain type of skill as a leader to make good effective plans that will work. And secondly, you should be always also able to get these plans implemented through others. So if you are making a good plan but you are not able to implement these plans, then you cannot be called a good leader. So in this particular definition, this is most widely accepted definition which says that leaders should have these two things. One, capability to make plans, and secondly, capability to stimulate the subordinate to get these plans implemented. And the importance of leadership, there are several studies you will find in the literature which say that the good leaders are very, very important as far as the best organizations are concerned. This is a study done in the US which says that the best companies in the US had one point in time in the organization a leader which gave its work culture. Then there is another study again done in US which shows that in 80% of the contribution of managing the organization is to deal properly with the people, again to get the things done from the subordinate, which again is a very important attribute of the leader. Then this management development study we have already discussed that the performance can increase by 30 to 40% without any other resource if we have good leadership quality in the manager in the key positions. And there is a WHO report also for health sector services, especially in the developing country. They say that the key positions should be occupied by leaders and effective leaders. Now, another thing which we should understand by now is that why the leader is important. The leader is important, as we have seen, it gives work culture in the organization. Several studies has proved that. And also the beliefs and attitude of the leaders or manager are reflected in the work culture of the organization. Like if so you find that in a particular head of department has a belief that people should be trained, so you'll find that during that tenure the people are sent abroad for training or in different institution. There is another head of department who feels that the latest technology should be there in the department, so during that tenure you will find that latest equipment has been coming up. So the point here to understand is that the leader is very crucial for the organization. Not only he or she gives work culture. Work culture we have already understood: openness, trust, autonomy, then team building, innovation, creativity. So all these things. So if as a leader you are encouraging that, that will ultimately become the work culture of the organization, because you will find that what happens? The head of department, they are looking at the director of the institution. The way the director behaves in when he is interacting with the subordinate, the head of department will behave. And similarly, the junior consultant will behave how the senior consultant behaves with them. And this goes down to the class 4. The class 4 also observe how his immediate person is behaving with them. So that is important. That work culture, usually we say that the class 4 are not working, or the employees are not working. I as a head of department, I am willing. Actually, the culture is given by you as a head of department, not by the person who is at the bottom. So you are being very closely observed. So your behavior, your work behavior, your views, your decision making ultimately percolates down. So that is very important, and that is then also the importance for having leadership in this. Now let's see what are the qualities or attributes required for a good leader, and this to some extent we have also discussed in the previous session. That you should have knowledge about the job. That means technical knowledge, especially in the professional field. We are talking about hospitals. So if you have good technical knowledge, the people will respect you and they will try to obey you, because you have to get the things done from other. So that means that you must have good technical knowledge. Then knowledge about the handling of the people, that human relation skills, how to see what are the requirement of the subordinate, how to motivate them, what are their needs. That is also important. And third, again very important attributes, as a leader you should also know what are your strong point and weaknesses. And if you earlier it was believed that leaders are born leaders, but the latest theories say that you can develop leadership qualities. There are studies done by US Army which very clearly show that the leadership qualities can be developed over a period of 10 to 12 weeks time. So that means within 2 to 3 months you can develop a good leader if you are not have a good leader, provided that you follow certain things. So that means if you are knowledgeable about your strengths, if you are knowledgeable about your weaknesses, your own personality, how the way you get motivated, so this you can develop yourself. So that means these are some of the attributes which should be there in a leader: knowledge about the job, knowledge about handling the people, and of course your own knowledge about of your own strengths and weaknesses. Dr. Anand mentioned about the courage. This is also very important, because as a leader you have to take decision, and many a time in government organization we find that the people hesitate to take decision. They feel that if you take that I am getting retired in next say 1 year, why should I take this decision? Nobody has taken this decision. So taking decision is also very important, and that requires courage, because when you are taking a decision there is always a uncertainty. Even if you are deciding about a particular surgery, each human patient may be different. So it may not be there in the textbook how to perform that surgery once you open that thing. So that means courage is very important, and this is a very important attribute. So if you are not able to decide, if you hesitate to take decision, you cannot be a good leader. So a good leader has this attribute: he is able to take decision, and he has the courage to do that. Second, another attribute is the willpower to persist. Say once you have decided about the thing and you are satisfied to the best of your knowledge, you are taking a decision which is in the interest of the organization, insist with that. Because the purpose of the leader is to start a change in the organization, and whenever there is a change process in any organization, there is always a resistance. Because by nature, we say as a human being, if you are taking a Betty in the morning, and if you don't get Betty on one day, you are restless. So this is the same way, because in organization also people resist changes because they become habitual of doing the things as a routine. So whenever as a leader you want to introduce something new, there will be always a resistance. So this quality is very important. Unless you have the willpower to persist, again you will not be able to stick to your plans, and you will change your plan, you will change your decision, and the people will not obey you. So that is a very important attribute, that once you have decided, it is better you persist with. Of course, Dr. Nand, if you find there are certain inputs which say that this is, but this is again very important. You should not be afraid of introducing change in the organization. That will make a big difference. Then initiative is important. because many a time people hesitate to start, and say once you want to start a car, that is the time when you require the maximum energy. And once the things have started, the change process has started, the critical mass will be created and things will happen of their own. So that means that taking initiative is very, very important. Not only the courage, but also taking initiative. Yes, I will start this change now. So that will make a big difference. And of course, you will find, if you analyze the personality of the big leaders or great leaders whom you think as a big leader, you will also find there is a sense of selflessness. Because when you are taking a decision, there are two things you look at. One is the personal interest, other is the organizational interest. So any decision you take, say in the office, any decision you take, say you want to purchase computer for your office. So one decision is based that, okay, these computers are the best for the office. That means you have taken this decision in the interest of the organization. The other situation could be the company which pays me 10% or 15%, I will go for that. So that decision is taken for your personal interest. So these are the two things which you keep in mind when you are deciding. If you decide taking into consideration the organizational interest, 99% of the time that decision will be a right decision. Of course, there is some uncertainty, so 1% I have kept for that. Similarly, if you take a decision keeping your personal interest in mind, how much money I am getting, how much cut I am getting, how much, it may not be money, for example, it is risk involved. If I take this decision, people will be against me, labor union will go on strike. So that again you have taken a decision considering your personal interest, and 99% of the time that decision will be a wrong decision. So in good leaders you will find that they take decision considering the organizational interest, and that there should be a sense of selflessness in that they are taking this decision in organizational interest and not in their personal interest. So that is also a very important quality of a leader. Then there are certain leadership styles. I will just like to take another 2-3 minutes. Basically, there are two things you should understand. The leadership style is determined by the two factors. One is the job maturity, and other is the psychological maturity. When we talk about the job maturity, it means what type of tasks the subordinates are performing. There are certain type of tasks which require low job maturity, like the work of a attendant, for example, ward attendant, the work of a class 4, for example, that does not require that high level of skills and competency. Whereas there is another situation with a junior consultant, where you require more technical competency. So that means in this situation the job maturity is much more, or it is high. In another previous example where you are dealing with, for example, a ward attendant, there the job maturity for performing that particular job is less, whereas a professional job requires much more technical competency. So there the job maturity is high. So this is one. The other factor I talked is the psychological maturity of the people whom you are dealing with. So many a time you find some people are willing worker. In each organization, 5 to 10% of the people are willing worker. There you say that when the people, they have a sense of belonging, they want to perform, they immediately come forward and take responsibility. This is known as the high level of psychological maturity, where the people, the subordinate, they come forward, they come readily forward and take responsibility, and they have a sense of belongingness, and they are willing worker. So in this situation is known as a high level of psychological maturity. There is another situation where the people, they are not willing worker, you have to force them, you have to tell them do this, and after say 10 letters they will do. This is an example of low psychological maturity. So your leadership style as a leader is determined by these two basic factors. One is the job maturity, other is the psychological maturity. There are 4 alternative options available in any situation. In one situation there is a low job maturity and low psychological maturity. Here your style will be telling type of leadership style, that you have to give the instruction repeatedly to your other people. See, there is some very simple task to be performed which does not require high level of technical skills, and also it does not require high level of motivational self-motivation. So in that situation you have to give incentive, you have to tell them do this, if you do this you will get this increment or something like that. So this is one of the style which is known as a telling style. And let me tell you, these 4 styles are they are overlapping, you see. In some situation the telling style may be the best style, where, as I said, the situation is low job maturity and low psychological maturity. There could be another situation where there is a low job maturity, that is the skills required to perform a particular task are not that high, but there is high psychological maturity, that people are willing. So in this situation, you have to do what is known as the selling style of leadership, that you have to give importance to the relationship. Yes, you are doing very good job. You have to emphasize the relationship so that the people, they feel encouraged. Third type is there is high job maturity. That is, you require high type of technical tasks, but the people are not motivated. There is low psychological maturity. So in this situation, you have what is known as the participatory style, where again you don't focus on the task, you give more importance to the relationship, because the person is not motivated. He is not a willing worker. So here your emphasis should be creating a relationship, telling him it is important. If you perform this task, it will give credit to the organization or to your department. It will give your high value among your colleagues, like that. So there you are, as a participatory style, you are giving him a feeling that you are very important actor in this particular activity if you perform. So this is a low psychological factor is overcome by giving him a feeling of importance and emphasizing on the relationship. Theoretically, there is another possibility where there is a high job maturity and high psychological maturity. That means the technical competencies required are high, but the people are also motivated, they are willing worker. In such a situation, the delegatory style, you don't act as a really, you just facilitate the things. You only interfere to the minimum extent. You let the things work because the people are motivated and they are also, the tasks which they are performing are also of high job maturity. So this is in brief about some of the leadership styles. There are many, as I said, styles mentioned in different books, but this is the, I found this is the best way to understand the different leadership styles. Telling type, when the job maturity is low and psychological maturity is low. Selling type, when the job maturity is low but the psychological maturity is high. Third is the participatory style, where the job maturity is high but psychological maturity is low. And fourth situation is that where job maturity is high and psychological maturity is high, where you leave the people to work, only act as a facilitator, and this is known as the delegatory style. So this is in brief about the leadership.
Thank you, Dr. Sood, for elaborately discussing on leadership issue. Dr. Anand, can you just summarize maybe in a minute or two?
Yeah. We are talking of leadership. I would just ask you to think of a leader. If you have thought of a leader, I am almost certain that it will be a political leader. It will be a leader at a very high level. You would never have thought of a leader as an example in a day-to-day life. Whereas what we are aiming is that a leader, you are not exceptional people. Leadership occurs at household level, occurs at institutional level. So we all have to be leaders. Health worker has to be a leader at village level when he coordinates work between villagers, sarpanchas. Sarpanchas are leaders. So we are looking at leadership at all levels, not only at very highest level. And what are the essential things of leadership? Number one, leaders have to have a clear goal. And how do they get that goal is because they have what you know as, there is something called as a scanning skill, in which you look at all the issues and then prioritize and focus on one or two issues. You need to know all issues. It is like what we say that politicians know the pulse of the people. As they say, Indira Gandhi used to know the pulse of the people. That is an essential point. And then you focus on one issue like Garibi Hatao. Focus on one issue which makes it a very inspiring goal. And then you inspire, which is basically by communicating. You communicate that goal, the importance. So you have to have a strong sense of communication which would be inspiring. You almost always equate leadership with inspiration. But one thing which always also gets missed, which again Dr. Sood, is leadership has to perform, they have to achieve. And therefore all leaders have to be good managers. They have to achieve the goal that they have laid for themselves and for the others in the team. And for that we discussed various issues including delegation and identification of roles, etc. So ultimately leadership is about identifying an appropriate goal, communicating it strongly and managing your resources to achieve that goals. And it is always done in, if you look at the definition, he said in a difficult situation. Leadership is always done in situations which are challenging, which are difficult. Otherwise there is no need for leadership. If there is no challenges and no difficulties, then everybody can do their own work, and then there is no need for a teamwork, there is no need for really a leader to motivate everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. I think time is already over. I thank Dr. Sood and Dr. Krishna Anand for being here, for nicely discussing all the issues that we discussed in the last two sessions. I think in this issue both motivation and leadership. If these two issues the students can themselves practice in their work situation, I think the health scenario will improve a lot. I again request the students, September month we don't have teleconference. For October, please contact your regional centers or program in charge for the date of teleconference and the timing. I thank again the experts, the students and the viewers at the regional centers for attending this teleconference. Thanking you again.